Okay, so again, we're reviewing how to create box plots. We're going to investigate double box plots. We're going to analyze box plots. We're going to go from a dot plot to mean, median, mode, range, and a dot plot to a box plot. So again, in review, I had 6 numbers. First step, put them in order from least to greatest. Identify the least value, 5. The greatest value is 20. Find the median. It's in the middle. It falls between 2 numbers. In our case, it fell between the same number, so it was easy to figure out the median was 15. I look in the first half of those 3 numbers. The number in the middle of the first half was 9. That's your first quartile. The middle of the second half was 19. That would be considered the third quartile. And then I plot on a number line. Now, sometimes, like on your homework, the number lines were given to you, so you didn't have to create that. But on a test, you may have to go from scratch and create your entire thing. So you have to create your line. You have to create what you're counting by. Chances are we'll give you that. Okay, ready? Or not. Here we go. So next one's going to have a longer set of data. So this has 37, 84, 70, 64, 24, 93, 25, 39, 82, 49, 82. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 11 numbers in this set of data. So this has an odd amount of numbers. Job 1 is to put them in order from least to greatest. So I see I have 2 numbers in the 20s. I have 24 and 25. So when I'm putting them in, I do mark them off. And then I also, my other thing is I try to write my numbers underneath a number that exists. So it should tell me straight away if I've dropped a number off or something. So 30s. Let's see, I have a 37 and a 39. So 37 comes first, and then the 39. 40s. I have a 49. 50s. I don't have any 50s. 60s, I have a 64. 70s, I have a 70. 80s, I have an 84, an 82, and an 82. So 2 82s and an 84. And then I have a 93. So should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 numbers. Okay. So first thing I'm going to do is find my least value and my greatest value. Least value is, what is it? 24. Greatest value is 93. Next, let's figure out the median of the data. Because I have 11 numbers, there's going to be the 6th number is going to be dead in the middle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That leaves me 5 numbers in front of it and 5 numbers after it. So because the median is the number in the middle, Joey, we're taking notes. You need to write this all down. Because we have a number in the middle, that number 64 is not part of looking at the first half. The first half goes up to the 64, but not including it. So when I look for the first quartile, I have 5 numbers, so there's a number dead in the middle. 37. Third quartile, I look at the second half. And again, there's a number dead in the middle. And so that's 82. So I've got my 5 key pieces of information, and I'm ready to graph. So I'm going to actually change my graph paper to be smaller. And we're going to start at 20, 30, 40, 50. Oops, sorry, that wasn't enough. Try that again. 2, 4, 6, 8. 30, 2, 4, 6, 8. 40, 2, 4, 6, 8. 50, 2, 4, 6, 8. 60, 2, 4, 6, 8. 70, 2, 4, 6, 8. 80, 2, 4, 6, 8. Oops, that's too many. 2, 4, 6, 8. 90, 2, 4, 6, 8. 100. So I have 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Then I take my 5 key numbers and I plot them. 24. And again, for some reason, a lot of people in last period's class decided that they were going to graph on the number line, and you don't do that with a dot plot. Pete, I need to see you take real notes. We're at 93, so there's 92. 93 would be between those. And then 64, 62, 64. 37, let's see, 2, 4, 6, so in between these. And 82. I draw lines through my 3 medians, connect them in a box, and then connect the least and greatest values. Okay? So again, the worst thing you're going to have to do is figure out the mean of the 2 numbers that your value falls between. Do you want me to do one more where you have to figure out the number that's the first quartile, the median, or the mean because it falls between values? Are we okay with that? Are you okay? Do you need to see it? I'm not hearing anything.
We're okay.
You're okay. All right. So let's talk about Kenny.
Wait. But what do we need to do, like, never mind. I forgot. I mean, about that, you know, the line thing.
If it falls between and they're not the same number, you add them up and you divide by 2.
I know, but, like, if they're, do you do that add them between and divide by 2 thing if they're evens or no?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
If your median, either type, whether it's first quartile, second quartile, or third quartile, if either of any of those fall between 2 numbers, you add up the 2 numbers it falls between and divide by 2. Okay? So you just find the mean of those 2 numbers. All right, so let's talk about what is a double box plot. And simply, it's just 2 box plots graphed over the same number line. Now, each box plot stays on its own, so that means you're not going to make one big, huge box plot. You're going to actually physically graph 2 different ones. So you graph one above the number line, and above that box plot, you graph the second one. And that allows you to compare information. So I'm going to do a box plot of a football team's scores from last year to this year. So let me find my data. Here it is. So this is a particular football team, and their scores, their points scored. Now, this may be something that you could do if you were trying to figure out, you're doing a fantasy football and you're picking who you want. So you could take scores, you could do box plots, and you can see how they compare to each other. So you can say, this is my number 1 choice and my number 2 choice. Okay? So have they shown improvement? Are we going to go for them? So what we're going to do is create, I'm going to give you the box plot. Let's see, we want to go from, let's go black. Six, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 26, 28, 30. Oops. Okay. And then I'm just going to graph. And what I want to graph in this particular plot is how they did last season and how they did this season. So what's helpful is if you're using graph paper so that people can interpret your information better. Notice, I don't know where you guys got the notion as I walked by, but several of you graphed all the points that were in the data. That's not how a box plot works. 5 key points. Okay. So what's the least value in this graph, in this box plot? 7. And what's the first quartile? What's the first quartile? That's 8. And then what's the median? 19. And what's the third quartile? 24. And what's the upper quartile? I mean the greatest value? 28. Sometimes that's all that you do with a box plot. They'll ask you questions like, well, what's the median? And you just have to physically look at, because they didn't give you data here, they just gave you the box plot. Okay? All right, well, this is from this year. So let's do last year. Draw your lines through your medians. Connect the whiskers. Okay, so let's go through what those 5 points. What's the least value in, this is last year? 7, okay. And what about the least, or the first quartile? And the median? And the upper quartile or third quartile? 18. And then the greatest value? 22, okay. So that may be the extent of what they ask. Or they may ask a question is there anything that's the same between last year and this year? Okay. Rochelle?
The least value.
So they may ask that question and the answer would be both this year and last year, their least value of points scored was 7. So basically, they had at least one game where they only scored a touchdown and got the extra point. And that was it. They didn't score any more than that. Okay. All right. Which season do you think they've done better on? Okay, why? Clea, what's higher? Okay, so what goes higher? So they scored, the highest game was in this year compared to last year, because the highest score was 28 this year. Last year it was 21. Okay. All right, anything else that you could say they did better this year? Okay. The upper quartile is higher as well. It's at 24 points, whereas the upper quartile in the last year was 18. In fact, what's interesting is if you look here, 50% of their games scored 19 points or higher, whereas last year 50% of their games scored, what was that, 14 or higher? So that's significant. That's a big boom. Okay, so they seem to be scoring higher points. Now, what I find interesting is that last year they seem to have about the same amount of scores for each of these groupings. But look at this big, huge range, what they did from the lower quartile to the median. So they had a huge range of scores. So here they look like they may have been more consistent. Here they kind of were inconsistent because they had such a big range. But overall, they had better scoring games than the year before. So some people look at consistency as being the most important piece, and other people look at the highest number of points as being the most important piece. But that's some of the things that you may be asked to answer, is looking at this, you know, what would you pick this team to be your number one choice for your fantasy football? And the answer would be yes, because, or no, because. You have to make decisions based on what you see. Some people are conservative, so they say, no, they've actually become more erratic this year, and they're not reliable. Last year, they seemed more reliable. The range of the data was very close-knit. This one, it's big expanse, so I'm not sure I trust them. And other people are risk takers, and they're like, I like how well that they've improved. I'm going to go with them this year. I think, yes, they're going to be one of my first choices. Okay. All right, let's talk about a dot plot. So I have another dot plot here. So on a dot plot, let's see, we'll do another number line. And we've done dot plots before, and it's funny, most people call them a dot plot, but then most people end up using X's instead of dots. So we're going to go 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. And this is going to be the number of nacho bowls sold each night. Okay, so we're not given a specific number of nights. Okay, just in a group of nights that they were looking at, gathering data. So with a dot plot, we just make little X's. And what does that represent? We had 2 different times, 2 nights where they sold 20 bowls each. Okay. And then we have same thing. There were 2 nights when 23 bowls were sold. Okay. And I'll just keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4 for 24. 25, we had 3. 26, we had 1. 27, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 29, there was 1. 32 and 31, 1. Okay. So what I want to do is see if we can take the data from this and let's see if we can come up with a box plot. So what I want to do is figure out the 5 key pieces of information from this dot plot. So least value and greatest value is pretty easy to figure out. What's the least value? What's the least value? 20. It's the numbers on the number line, not how many are in that number line, okay? Greatest value? 32. Yeah, we only got as far as 31, okay? Now, how am I going to figure out median from a dot plot? Each X represents an item, right? So if I figure out how many I have, I can figure out what's the middle of that. So let's count up. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So I have 21 numbers. So what number would be considered in the middle? Not 10 and a half. Do I have a number that's in the middle? I have an odd set of numbers. If I take 1 away from an odd set of numbers, it gives me 20. So I can split 20 in half. That means there's 10 numbers that are going to be in front of mine, 10 numbers after the number. So if I have an odd set of numbers, it's going to be the 11th number, not the 10th number, the 11th number. So how do I find the 11th number? I count this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then I get, here's my 11th number. I count from the bottom up. So my median was 25. Not 3, 25. Okay? Now, if I want to figure out the first quartile, I have 10 numbers in front of my 25, and I have 10 numbers after my 25. So now I'm looking for a middle of 10. So it's not going to be the fifth number. It's actually going to be between the fifth and the sixth number. So again, I start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's between 24 and 24. What's between 24 and 24? That's pretty easy. Okay, now I'm going to do that for the second half, same idea. So this is where I ended here. That was my median, so I'm going to start here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's between 27 and 27. So what number is between 27 and 27? 27. Now notice there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers on that side and 5 numbers in front of it. So basically what I've done is I've taken my 21 numbers and broken them into 4 groups where there's 5 numbers in each group. Kenny.
What's that thing next to the on the right of the third quarter thing?
That's a line counting.
Like no. I mean like on the do you see that purple writing?
Mm-hmm. Where it says 10.
10,
Fifth through sixth. That's saying that if I have 10 numbers, my median would be between the fifth and the sixth number. Okay.
Okay.
So now I'm going to do my box plot from this data. So I start at 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Oh, you know what? I'm going to do it the same. Hold on. I'm going to line up with these guys. There's 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 29, 30, 31, 32. And now I'm going to take those 5 numbers and I'm going to plot them. So I start at 20. I go to 31 as the greatest value. The median was at 25. The first quartile was at 24. And then the third quartile was at 27. 3 lines through the 3 medians. And connect the whiskers. So look at how long the whiskers are. From your least value to your first quartile, there's a range that's kind of big. The range is 4. It goes from 20 to 24. But look what the range is inside the box. It goes from 24 to 27. There's only 3. Now, that is something that we need to add to our notes, is the interquartile range. So we know what range is. Range says take your largest and your smallest and subtract them. Okay? What does inter mean? What does that prefix mean? Not inside. No. What does an interstate do? What is an interstate? I can't hear you mumbling. Okay. Another name for an interstate is a freeway, I-5. I stands for interstate. What is the interstate doing? From what to what? No. An interstate takes you between states. The 5 can take you from Mexico through California, Oregon, Seattle. That's what an interstate does. An inter means between. So it's taking you between things. So an interquartile range wants to know what's the range between the quartiles. So all we do is take the third quartile and subtract the first quartile. So we want to know how big is the box. So in this case, it would be 27 take away 24 equals 3. Sometimes they want to know the interquartile range. Joey, again, we're taking notes and you're sitting there not. You cannot learn if you're going to sit there and just stare. You have to write. Okay? All right, so I'm going to erase this, and we're going to do a couple key pieces of information. And then, so let's see what I want to do. I'm going to erase all of this. Okay, how do I figure out the mode from a dot plot? Yeah, we look for the tallest column, and that would go with which number? 27 had 5 x's. The next highest had 4. Okay, how do I figure out the range of this data? Yeah, I'm going to take the largest number, 31, and subtract from it the smallest number. So I get a range of 11. Could I figure out mean from a dot plot? Yeah, it's going to be a lot of math, but it's what I like about it is that the numbers are grouped. So here's how I would go about doing mean. I have 2 numbers that measure 20. I have 2 numbers that measure 23. I have 4 numbers that measure 24. I have 3 numbers that measure 25. I have 1 number that measures 26. I have 5 numbers that measure 27. I'm going to add to that. I have 1 number that measures 29. I have 2 numbers that measure 30. And I have 1 number that measures 31. Then I divide that by how many numbers there are. And how many numbers did I say we have? How many x's were there all together? Say again? 21. And I would divide that by 21. So I can use this dot plot to figure out the mean. It just is going to be a little bit of work. But it's actually kind of nice because I'm not sitting there adding 21 individual numbers. I'm adding them in groups. And that makes the math go a little faster. So tomorrow, you can tell me what that answer is. Okay?